All right.
That's all right, carry on. I mean, I think we're due to start in 45 seconds, but we can...
Oh yeah, we can wait. It's up to you. If you're ready, we can start.
Oops. Well, I have no attendees online.
Nope. Yeah, it's just me and Nancy.
And I'm guessing that anybody else who was planning to come would have arrived by now.
I had talked to Michael, and yeah, he's on the bus, and he wasn't sure if he was gonna call in from the bus, and
The bus?
commuting back from work.
Oh, okay.
He started
You
a
can
new
always tell
job.
him if he needs to arrive late, he can get here late. That's fine.
Sorry?
Okay.
If he calls you and you talk to him, there's
Our kids are in a lot of the same activities,
yeah.
so I randomly see him.
Oh, okay. Okay.
not allowed to come late.
Do we need to wait for Jim?
Jim's here.
Oh, I'm sorry, my
You're,
apologies. Okay, well, here we go then. Okay.
Recording in progress.
Okay, I'd like to call to order a regular meeting of the Planning Commission. I guess the first issue is a roll call.
Chairman Harper,
Yes.
Vice Chair Rose, Commissioner Vaughn,
Oops, here.
Commissioner Whitty, Commissioner Barnes, Commissioner Gordon, Commissioner Mojo, Commissioner Gross,
Here.
Commissioner Shanahan.
Here.
And I figure I'm already out of order because I think the first thing to do is ask, is there proof of publication?
There is no publication because there's no public hearing. I mean, there's no development review public hearing.
Oh, okay. Is that what
And
we...
I guess technically oh yeah, do you want to, is there,
I don't believe there is public review.
yeah, I mean, it's posted on the town calendar that there's a meeting, so it's, if there's a development review, that it has to be posted in multiple places, but our planning commission meetings are always posted online.
Okay. I'm only asking because Bob McCool gave me these list of questions. So I'm just...
Oh,
Okay, fine. Next item is then we can move on to public comment on non-agenda items. Does anybody have anybody in the town hall wish to comment on non-agenda items? I guess we should. I guess we should welcome you to the Planning Commission meeting. Which schools are you from? Monarch. Oh, okay. Good.
would you mind coming up to the microphone and just introducing yourselves and saying what you're here for? You can all come up together, it's fine.
I'm Luke from Monarch in 9th grade, and we're here for a U.S. government project.
I'm Jax DiCarlo.
I'm London Small.
Good. Well, thank you very much for being here. I was actually at Monarch myself earlier today giving out dictionaries and gazetteers to third grade students, which was a lot of fun, and I'm happy to say that they still read real books, so that was nice too. Okay, so we can move on to, I think the next item is approval of the minutes of the last Planning Commission meeting.
So we're going to
Yes, we're
skip
not
the
gonna approve
meeting minutes because there's no quorum, so I'll bring them back at our next meeting, and we'll approve both sets of minutes.
Okay, that sounds like a fine plan. And so our next item is a presentation on water resources. Mr. Wiedner, I think you're up. Well, thank you for coming, and thank you for preparing a presentation and coming and giving it to us.
Sure.
It's very interesting.
Well, my name is Jim Widener. I am the utility superintendent for the town of Superior. A little bit of my background, I was in consulting for 22 years, designing water and wastewater plants. So
You are very quiet.
Oh, is that not?
I don't know whether that's the
Is that
microphone.
not on? Is that not on? Oh, there we go. I've spent 22 years designing water and wastewater plants before I came to Superior. So a lot of my background's in facility planning, and I know there's going to be a lot of water planning questions, I'll do my best, but that may be another presentation from our water attorneys who oversee our water resources and supply. But I know enough to be dangerous. I know a little bit about it. So let's see if I can do this. Well, I mean, we're going to be talking a lot about water. So in your packet, there's some conversions to get to different units depending on what you are used to seeing and what makes more sense to you as you were looking through the packet. But they're not anything that's going to make a big difference right now. Oops. Okay, so to touch on water rights, which is not my big forte, but I do deal with it a lot. We have two main sources of water. That's our Windy Gap project. It's a reservoir on the western slope. I'm sure everybody's familiar with Windy Gap. And our water rights are 15 units of that, and it can be anywhere from 0 to 90 acre feet per unit, depending on what kind of year we're having. Typically, we've always been right around 50 acre feet per unit. So you take 15 times 50 and you get 750 acre feet per year. And Windy Gap water is special water because we can use that for anything. We can reuse it to extinction, or we can use it for potable water. We can use it for anything. CBT water, which is our other source, it's our main source. That cannot be reused. That's just for one use only. And we have 2,080 units yearly, and the average allotment is 70% of that. So that comes out to about, if you look down to the next line, about 1,500 acre feet per year. Now, that CBT water, typically they will give us an allotment of 70% acre feet per year, but they always start us out at 50%. So we'll get a notice from Northern Water that says your allotment's 50%. It always goes up. I mean, over the last 10 or 15 years, it's always been up over 70%. So we get that water pretty consistently. And on top of those water rights, we can also carry over 415 acre feet every year. So we usually keep that under our sleeve so we can use that the following year, which made a big difference in the fire because we had that in our pocket that we got to add on to our typical use. On average, we use about 2,600 acre feet a year. And we do have some ditch rights that come through community ditch, which is 200 acre feet. We hardly use that. It's very difficult to treat, but in a drought year, we would definitely use that. And it comes straight from a ditch. We do have a filter for it, but it does mess up our potable water a little bit. We can handle it. It's just not ideal, but in an emergency, we use it. Any questions?
Yeah, I sent you this. Don't know whether you saw the question or not, but my question was, what's the minimum that we can get in a drought year?
I would say 0 for Windy Gap, and for the CBT water, usually about 50%. Now, I've looked over records going clear back to probably 1960s on some of this water, and the allotments always it's never been lower than 50%. So what was your question, asking for the lowest amount?
Yeah, I was wondering what we're actually guaranteed to get as
our water rights guarantee us 50% of that CBT. Doesn't guarantee us any Windy Gap water.
So the minimum we could get would actually be 1,040 units.
Roughly.
From Colorado, Big Thompson.
Yeah, but usually in dry years, this is a little counterintuitive, but in dry years, since CBT water is considered a supplement water supply, which it's a main water supply for everybody, but it's under Colorado law, I think it's considered a supplemental water right. They would actually give us more water in a dry year.
Oh, okay.
So it's a little strange. I do have a presentation on water rights that we give with our attorney, which might be something you guys might want to see sometime.
No, I was just-
I typically just go through how I get the water and I use it
Okay.
throughout the system, but I can answer some of those questions. Anything else? Any other questions? Let's see. So that previous slide was pretty much our water portfolio. There's a lot more to it than that, but we try and keep our water rights pretty hefty, so we're able to handle any build out that comes our way, although we're pretty much built out. And we do have to look at each individual development to make sure that we have we would have the water rights in place, but just like you said, you look at drought years and things like that, and planning does a lot of that. I try and get them the information. The scenario I like to use is we can have all the water rights in the world. I mean, we could have an ocean, but if you only have a straw to take from it, that's where the bottleneck is. And that's one situation that I feel like we've always been in since I've been here. I got here in 2013. I think our water infrastructure, and I'm talking about storage, pipelines, things like that, needs some improvement to make use of all those water rights that we have. We have a pipeline that comes from Northern, and it's where we get all our Windy Gap and CBT water. We only have, there's another pipeline right. I'm not an expert on it, but I know that the capacity of that pipeline is larger than 4 MGD. But our rights to the water in that pipeline are only 4 MGD, 6 CFS, cubic feet per second. Now that equates to what I just, 4 million gallons per day. And we use close to that on a daily basis when the demands are high. So really we're kind of tied to that 6 CFS, no matter how many water rights, despite our water portfolio.
Is that determined by the size of the pipeline? Or
No, it's determined by the rights that we have in that pipeline.
So even if the pipeline was bigger, we just still be at 6
CFS, yeah. It's always been like that.
Is that enough to cover fire flows and things like that?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. We can run 5.5 MGD through the plant and into our distribution system once we get the water. So we store all that water in Terminal Reservoir, which is a 400 acre feet reservoir. So we're good. I mean, we can use it. It's just if we get into a longer drought year or something like that, we could use more storage. And that's one thing I have been talking to management, and I think the board knows about it because I think it's on our CIP that we're going to try and get some more storage, which would cure most of that. So, and see if I can get down to the. This is a very basic schematic of our water system. So you see that we get the water from Northern up at Carter Lake, and it goes into that pipeline, that 6 CFS, 4 MGD pipeline. That's the pipeline I'm talking about. That's kind of our bottleneck. And then we store it up at the reservoir, which is up by the water plant. I don't know if everybody knows where that is, right off of McCaslin.
What's the actual capacity of the pipeline? I mean, how much is Louisville taking?
Well, Louisville has a separate pipeline. I'm just showing the pipeline that comes for us.
Oh, I see. So that pipeline is only
It
to
is
Superior.
dedicated to Superior, yeah. I think it's an 18-inch pipeline. It can carry more than 6 CFS. What was that? Okay, so it goes into the Terminal Reservoir. That's 400 acre-foot reservoir. And then we treat it, and then it goes to distribution. And then there's another part coming down from Terminal. You'll see that FM, that's a flow meter, going to Pond 5. With some storage, we could eliminate that and keep that water in terminal. That water goes into the irrigation system. It supplements our reuse system. So we have a reuse system. If once the water gets used, I wish I had a pointer. But once the water gets used and it goes into the water treatment plant, we treat it to a certain standard so that we can reuse it in our system. And we get about 1 MGD, so 1 million gallon per day, and we use probably 2 because there's so much to irrigate in town. So we have to supplement it with raw water from terminal. It's not treated water, but it's raw water. Yeah, a little pointer in there.
Oops, I'm wondering if, oh, there we go.
Okay.
So you
Yeah,
can use
okay.
that to.
All right. All right, so to supplement this, we get 1 MGD. Now, when this was first built 20 years ago or whenever it was, that was fine. The reuse water is used to irrigate grass is what it's typically for, for the to take out the nitrates and stuff. But the town uses it for a whole lot of other things now. So it gets, it waters trees, bushes, everything. Any commercial establishment that has vegetation has to use that system. And we can produce 1 MGD of actual reclaimed water. So that's reused from the sewer. So to supplement what is actually used in the system, we have to take water from terminal reservoir. It was designed to do this, but it's getting to be to where this amount of water is greater than this amount of water. So it's almost turning into more of a raw water system than a reuse system. But it works. It works okay, and everybody gets the water. But one thing that we need to do, this thing, I don't want to go there. So from this, the irrigation reuse system is comprised of reuse water and from the wastewater plant and from that raw water from terminal. I always say raw water because we're not spending money to treat it. It's just straight out of it. We don't run it through the water plant, so that's helpful. So when you look at last year, we had to, or the year before, we almost used as much raw water as we did reuse water. So it was a half and half proposition. We've done a little better this last year. We opened up some ponds and got some more storage, so we were able to get not augment it so much. So we were able to balance that out a little bit more. What you want to do is you want to have this 0. We don't want to use any raw water. That way, it doesn't matter how much water we get from that pipeline. We'll have enough stored up at terminal that will be okay. So to handle that, we're talking about building a reservoir up at the top of up there where where this is up by where this irrigation tank is, which is over by 128th and McCaslin up there on the hill. We're talking about building a reservoir about as big as terminal. So instead of during the wintertime putting this flow from the wastewater plant when we're not irrigating, during the wintertime we're not irrigating, so that flow goes straight to the creek. We're talking about trapping this flow since we've already got the infrastructure in place to pump up there, turn this into a huge reservoir and store it, and then have it for irrigation the following year, and that way we don't have to keep doing this.
Would that be an open reservoir?
Yeah. Erie built one, which I'm going to go take a look at soon. They built like 1,000-acre reservoir. We're looking at about a 400-acre reservoir, about half that size.
That's about the same size as terminal reservoir?
Yes, yeah, that's correct.
P.S. I think it's a good idea.
Yeah, I've thinking about that for a long time, and I think it's finally getting some traction. And then there's, there's just some slides in here, mostly for your packet, so you can see, just how much irrigation takes up. I mean, during the year when there's not a lot of irrigation, we're not using a lot of water. As a matter of fact, I don't know if you know about those GAC tanks that we had to put in to take the smoke out of the water, the smoke and ash out of the water. We had to put 6 of them in to handle the flow during the summer. We use one of those during the winter. I mean, we hardly use any flow during the winter, but you can see.
Are they still do you still run all the raw water through them?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, all the water that goes into the drinking system.
Yeah, because they've got, when we put it in, there's also the perk that it takes out PFAS.
Okay.
And it takes out a lot of things to where it's been making the water much easier to treat. And we're getting a much better product. Anyway, so this is just the treated water coming from the plant. So this is all the residents. This is not any of the businesses or irrigation. This is mostly just all the potable water that the businesses use, but just everything that's been treated at the wastewater plant. There's 3 different systems in our. We have the drinking water system,
Sure.
which is what you're seeing here, and then we have the reuse system, which is a totally whole new set of pipelines. It's not even connected to the system. And then we have the sewer system. So this is just the potable drinking water system. And of course, people use that to water their grass with. So that's why, nothing during the winter. And then once summer hits, everybody starts watering. And these are just, you've had this, so you know that this is, I think, a 5-year stretch per each month to just kind of graphically show how the water gets used. And this is the irrigation water. So this is that reuse system that I was talking about. This is a combined water use of all the reuse and raw water from terminal. And this is just all commercial. You can see they don't use any typically during the winter months, but it picks up. So let's see that, and we already talked about that. So this is a good graphic of what I'm talking about the raw water and the reuse water. Here's the potable water use in the residential water use, and you can see just how much the irrigation shoots up during the summertime. And that's all that reuse and raw water. So we could almost cut that in half if we had that reservoir. I mean, not cut it in half, but we wouldn't have to use as much of the raw water. This would pretty much be just all reuse water. I don't know if I'm making it clear, but it's a lot more involved than that, but I'm trying to make it as simple as I can. So pretty much what I've been talking about. Limitations, the distribution system. We have noticed a lot of, like at the water plant, we've noticed a downturn in usage. I think it's all this water conservation, all the new toilets and fixtures that a lot of the fire victims rebuilding back have been using. I think that's really helping, by the way. And the xeriscaping, the non-turf, all that stuff is really helping. The reuse storage is what I've been pushing to try and get a reservoir to capture that winter wastewater flow. And purchase additional pipeline capacity. That's that capacity. And I was looking through some old documents and I saw that I think it used to be at 8 CFS, but they sold 2 CFS to Erie at some point, like in the mid 2000s or late 90s or something. But so it does have the capacity. We just don't have the rights for it. So
Out of curiosity, who owns the capacity? I mean, who's the original owner?
Yeah, I'm not sure. I think it might be, it's called the Southwest Pipeline, and I know that Northern Water controls all of that. So And it might be something where it's a municipality thing where everybody has to vote on it or something. I'm not quite sure. I've never really looked into adding additional pipeline capacity. I've always looked at what I know and what I can do, and that's adding storage, which is something that we can control, actually. So I think that's it. Yeah, that's it.
Hey, Jim, can you talk about the work that you're currently doing?
Sure.
Yeah.
We have, so the pipeline that feeds Original Town, Sagamore, all that, is an 8-inch line. And when I got here, I had a hydraulic model done of the town, and I noticed that there's been some issues with pressure over here. So back in 2014 or 15, when the developers came in to Superior downtown, one of the things that I pushed for was in making this pipeline larger to help with all the low pressure over here. So we've started that project. It's underway. We're changing that pipeline. You have main lines, which are the 8-inch feeders that go down the roads and feed to the houses, and then you have transmission mains, which is what this is, and it's an 8-inch line, which is horrible. It's not very big, so we're making it a 16-inch line. So there's going to be a lot of construction going down McCaslin. That whole line's going to be. We're actually going to parallel it and make it a 16-inch line, double the capacity of that. So that should help with a lot of pressure and flow down here. And then the other thing that we're doing is trying to get this reservoir. I think those are the two main things that we can do.
I thought all the lines going into the houses in Sagamore, did they go from being 3/4 of an inch to being an inch or something like that when the houses were rebuilt?
Not all of them. 3/4 inch is plenty, but if they need to have a if they want to opt in and get a fire sprinkling system, they can put in an inch line.
I mean, I live in Coal Creek Crossing, and I think my line coming into the house is an inch because we do have a fire sprinkler system.
Yeah. That's. It depends on what we don't design those. We just say what you can have and what you can't have. So if it's up to the fire sprinkler designer to make sure that you've got the pressure and flow you need for like one sprinkler the farthest away and highest part of the house, I think is how they do it. And if they can't do it with a 3/4 inch line, they need a 1-inch line. And or if they can use a 3/4 inch line, they can put in a pump system, which a lot of people do. But it's mostly just a question of hydraulics at that point. So,
Will this construction affect the pressure in the rest of the town at all?
and it's going to help, yeah, because we have a loop system, and so
It'll help it, or? I just know we live in Rock Creek and we had to put a flow limiter because our pressure's so high.
Yeah, it'll help. It'll probably make it higher.
No.
But that's a better problem to have, believe me. I've seen a lot of towns that don't have any water pressure, and it's hard to get pressure. When you have pressure, it's easy to knock it down. Maybe not that easy, but you might check a lot of people just put in those kind of residential PRVs that are rated like to 50 PSI.
Yeah,
or something.
we do.
You need to get a bigger one.
We had one. We put one in because we were getting like water hammers through our house that were insane.
Wow.
Yeah. Sometimes the water hammer, though, is from a defective PRV because those things have little springs in them and they get rocks and stuff in them. And if they're not working right, Anyway, I'm not a plumber.
We have a whole house, lots of stuff done, and then,
Well, you'll have more pressure. It's not going to be a lot more pressure.
Okay.
Mostly down here, we're kind of targeting this area.
Okay.
But one of the perks of enlarging any pipeline with a loop system is the pressure does improve in a lot of places. So anyway.
Question, Jim.
Yes, sir.
So given current levels of water usage, Superior's allotment, future forecasting, has the town of Superior calculated a limit to the number of new taps that could be added to the system?
That might be a question for planning. I usually just get the numbers of how many houses they want to build and the developments, and then I try and design the plants and the infrastructure to handle that. We do work with a water resource and water supply firm. They're water attorneys. And they keep us in the loop on our water portfolio and what we can and can't do. We use EQRs, which is an equivalent unit to a residential home. So one EQR is equivalent to one house. And say like an apartment's like a 0.5 EQR because it's not going to have a lawn, so it's not going to use as much water as a house. We use an EQR system, and I do track how many EQRs we have and how much water that's costing us or how much water we're using for our existing EQRs, and then kind of project if they want to build some.
So you could extrapolate.
We can extrapolate, yeah.
So I guess question, Renee, is availability of future taps something that happens in the comprehensive plan?
So part of the comprehensive plan will be to look at like possible future land uses in undeveloped properties throughout the town. And then part of the discussion of the uses that we propose for those properties will look to Jim, and he can, there's guesstimates for different types of development and their water usage that they'll, put into some calculation that says, if you do, this on this property, then you have this much left. And then, so you can't have the highest water usage on every single undeveloped property across town in perpetuity, but I don't I guess, does that answer your question? We look at it part of the comprehensive plan will be to do future land use, have a future land use discussion on undeveloped properties. And then part of that conversation will include looking at water usage for those uses.
What we found, I do a master plan for the plants. I oversee the water, wastewater plants. So I need to keep those in compliance with the state based on the water we're using and the water we need and all that stuff. But what I'm seeing, ever since I've been here over 10 years now, and the water usage was starting to go up the first few years I was here, and it's gone down since then. And our water rights are actually increasing, so that so I think you guys would benefit from a presentation on water rights and more, because I think when I was asked to do this, I had given this because the board was wanting to know how the system worked. So I did a water system thing, and I think people in planning need to see more of a water rights presentation on usage. But I can tell you that Northern looks at the state water usage, and because we have to do an audit every year with Northern, and we report all our water and everything. So they plan about the water usage, and who gets what. And they've decided that the Windy Gap water needs to be improved. So they are building a new reservoir for that. We're going to get, so we get 15 units right now, and we get roughly 50 acre feet typically. The new reservoir will give us 90 acre feet. So when they come out every year and give us our allotment, it'll be closer to probably 80, 85. So that's going to go up quite a bit with that. And I'm sure you're all familiar with Chimney Hollow Reservoir that's being built up there. So part of our work with Northern and with our water rights attorney is we try and stay ahead of that, try and stay ahead of what we're using. And if things are looking, if if they get a development and it comes to me and it's a highly dense development that needs a lot of water, we're not going to just say, yeah, build it. We'll take a look at what the usage is. I'll talk to Northern. We usually get the water rights attorneys involved. And now that we're getting close to build out, and I personally, as long as I've been doing this, I don't see a huge problem with any of our systems right now, other than some of the problems I'm dealing with moving the water that we have, moving it around, getting it to where it needs to go. And that's easy fix. That's just, that's something we can control.
Well, so it sounds like to me like we have enough water for our remaining properties, but that maybe we might want to look at like them paying for some water system upgrades in order to build.
That'd be nice. I don't quite know.
If that's possible. I'm just saying, like, because it sounds like the limiting right now is the water system is aging and needs a little help. And if we're adding these new big properties that are built out, like, instead of asking them to build a park, we ask them to build a little more water stuff. I don't know.
So, I mean, that's kind of what we did with downtown. And that's how we're getting the upgrades that we're getting right now. I had the same thought, like, when developments come in, you can't ask a developer to upgrade systems that don't directly impact that particular development. But if they're needing something out of the system and the system doesn't have enough to give, then that's when you can ask them to make infrastructure thing.
I usually get when we get these PUDs or one of the planned developments, I usually get a utility report. They have to give me a report on what their water usage is going to be. And then I look at our sewer, I look at what we're planning for the wastewater plants and water plants to make sure we can handle it. And then we have our water rights people looking at the water rights. But I take a look at their utility demand report. We don't just let them, come in willy-nilly. Yeah.
I do have a question. How much money will it take to build that reservoir that you want to add?
I think the last time I heard it was close to $10 million, something like that.
And are there funding sources besides the town, or would that come out of?
That comes out
bond issue?
The Colorado Water Conservation Board, the CWCB, gives out grants for storage. They gave out a grant for Windy Gap. And we're in good stead with them. We do a water audit every year with them, and so they know our system. They've given us a grant to do a drought plan. So we will be looking at grants. We've got a grant writer on staff now. So we're going to start pursuing. Yeah, that's a good question. We're going to start. Yeah, that's not free. Yeah. And there's going to be a lot of issues. Money, of course, being one, but putting a reservoir that's filled with wastewater, discharge. It is treated, but it still has a smell to it. I mean, there's, you can tell in the reuse system. I think if you ever walk by a sprinkler system, sometimes you can get a whiff of it. So there'll be some public input on that, I'm sure. But I think it'll be well received if you can, show them just how the water system works. And I think most people want to be good stewards, and we're making the water. I mean, we're making water. So it's a shame to, not use it. I mean, but I struggle with that too, because in order to be a good steward of water, you want to cut down on all this irrigation, do what you can, but,
Hey, Jim. can I ask you to talk about another thing? Can you talk about the different plans that you, and reports that you do regularly? Like you said you do during the
Oh,
drought
yeah.
report, like what, a drought plan, like what does,
We have
just a big picture, like what are the
Yeah,
plans?
we do a lot of, we call them plans. A lot of them are after the fact, though, because we use numbers that we've recorded, and then we try and project out. As Commissioner Gross pointed out, we try and extrapolate and project out. So we do. Every year I go through 2 or 3 audits with the CWCB. It's actually a House Bill 15-something, where all municipalities that serve more than 2,000 residents have to do a water audit. So I go through all the water that we use, all the flow meters that we have, make sure they're all calibrated, and then I have to show that audit to AWWA, and then I do another audit with them for water loss, and then we have to do a conservation plan every 7 years, which we are due up in a few years. We just have to keep updating our conservation plan. We're not required to have a drought plan, but we're putting one together now. And then with the state throughout, with all the plants and stuff, I have to report we have discharge monitoring reports. We sample the water constantly. So I don't know, I've probably just spoken to about half of that, of those reports and stuff that we do for the water.
So I was going to ask,
Sorry, David.
does the town of Superior, I think you just answered the question, the town of Superior does not have a drought plan. You're working on that. Typically, what does that involve?
It involves when you actually start implementing what you've got in your conservation plan. So there's watering restrictions, when you quit watering parks, so that there's kind of levels of what, depending on the type of drought, the duration of the drought, it goes into what we need to start doing as a town.
So like priority tiers?
Precisely, yeah. And plus with what, you don't want to give message, like if Louisville's, you try and stay involved with your surrounding communities too. You don't want to say nobody gets to water anything when they're over there watering stuff, so you try and work with them as well. It's the message that you're going to put out based on tiers. I haven't, I've got a consultant working on that right now. So we'll see what comes out of it. But I've read through Louisville's, and those are the types of things that, there's little formulas that you use to see if you're actually in a drought. And you want to start doing voluntary water restrictions. Do you want to start doing mandated water restrictions? Those are all parts of that plan when you reach a certain point, when you start having those conversations. So, yeah.
I was going to say, I think the town's current population is somewhere between 13 and 14,000 people. And I think at build-out, it's supposed to be somewhere between 17 and 18,000 people. And that means that there's a 30% increase in the population possible. But if you go from 2,200 acre feet a year to 2,600 acre feet a year, that's only a 20% increase in the water supply. So I think
I don't think it's linear like that, though.
I think having a drought plan sounds like it would be a good idea.
Yeah.
Actually.
Yeah. That's why they're giving us a grant to do it, I think. Yeah. So, all good stuff. But like I said, if you guys want to have a really in-depth look into water rights and usage and supply and what Northern, how they forecast, they do a lot of forecasting. They have a whole hydrology team, and we have people that keep track of that. So one of the questions I think you had was, what's the minimum amount of water we're entitled to?
Yeah.
That has a lot to do with hydrology and physically what do they have up there for snow melt. It has a lot to do with snowpack and all of that. So it's interesting stuff. I'm not an expert on it though, so I just take our system and try and get the best out of it, so.
But all of our developments are using less water. Like we're like Jim said, we're using less water for more people on an annual basis, like per person or per whatever, however you measure it. Like individually, we're using less every year through all kinds of different mechanisms, whether it's house spills that are mandated on us, or whether it's, the Parks Department going through and fixing their irrigation lines so that they don't water the sidewalks, taking out the grass in the medians along Rock Creek Parkway. There's lots of things that we are doing to be good stewards, and then there's individual residents who are doing things in their yards to be good stewards, or in their homes to use low flow things. There's lots of ways that we are using less water to produce the same product, I guess, visually the same product or whatever.
Yeah, that's a great point, because I've been here, and I think the population since I've been here has increased 15 to 20%, I think, and we aren't using much more water. We're still using about the same as when I got here. I mean, it started to go up, but I've seen it come down. And just the fact, that we have all these water rights, and we are getting a lot of water from Northern. We're buying more storage or more Windy Gap water. That doesn't mean let's just start building more parks and using that, because there's people in Arizona that can't turn on their dishwasher, So I think, all in all, everybody needs to be, we always keep saying good stewards, but I think that's what it's all about. And I think the town has been doing that. I mean, I know we put in mandate and we give incentives for low flow toilets and all that stuff, but I think people genuinely are trying to do their part. And I think we're starting to see it a little bit more. So that's encouraging. Anyway.
Any more? No? Well, thank you. Anything else? Well, thank you very much, Jim. That was a very interesting presentation.
Oh, yeah, thanks.
On a very important subject, actually.
And let me know if you have any other questions.
Yeah,
Email me or whatever. I'm sorry I didn't see your email, but...
Amanda has too much high pressure. I can't really say I don't really like low-flow shower heads very much, actually.
And since this was recorded, all of our meetings are always recorded. I'm going to share the recording with everyone, since we don't have everyone here this evening, so they can indulge on all of Jim's wisdom as well.
Oh, yeah, sure.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Come on up and introduce yourself. I'm sorry. I know.
Hi, my name is Angela Small. I'm new to the town of Superior. Just wanted to learn more tonight. I was kind of wondering, as far as like if an emergency goes, are we connected to another water source where if our main line went down or there was some type of complication with it, is there like a backup that we would get water from? And also like our wastewater treatment plants, what's the capacity of that usually run? And like what level are we kind of running at? And then what is our accuracy for water? Like, we track if we have leaks and stuff, like how much accountability rate do we have?
Okay. All right. Let me think if I can remember anything you just said. What'd you ask about the emergency interconnect? We do have a interconnect with Louisville. It did us no good during the fire because they needed water too. So interestingly enough, we've talked about adding another interconnect. We met with Boulder. What was Boulder County disaster mitigation?
Yeah, the emergency operations manager, whatever it is.
Yeah.
Yeah. Basically, the head of the emergency operations for Boulder County, and then Mountain View Fire District and the Boulder County Sheriff's Office.
Mm-hmm.
And Jim.
And I was there, and we were talking about and just that subject, we do have an interconnect, and it's with Louisville. So, and we've used it. We couldn't use it for the fire because they obviously needed water as well. But we used it. We had a break up at the plant. That was one of our main water sources. So we called Louisville, and they gave us water, and we kept our pressure up. And
With the emergency office and the extra interconnect, how's that, like, where is that communication process? Like, are they actively looking at doing it, or they just said, hey, let's put this on our wish list for someday down the line?
Oh,
Or
for
they
another one?
actually- Yeah.
oh, we just started talking about that.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
It came up in, so I guess we can answer her other two questions, and then we'll come back to that, because we can follow up with that in our update for the comprehensive plan stuff.
Yeah.
My other one was the water waste treatment plant. What capacity level?
It's a 2 MGD plant.
Okay.
And we run about 0.9 right now. So we're good. And we're actually doing a project to add some more aeration basins to it. We just got that contract. We'll be starting that work next year, because we do have to start meeting some higher regulations, some nutrient regulations. We're not a nutrient removal plant, and this is one of the first steps into getting there. And when I say it's a biological nutrient removal system, gets rid of nitrates and phosphorus. We're not set up for that right now, but we will be once we get these basins built. And the capacity, what else?
Then my other question was, what is the accountability rate for the district?
So when we do water loss, yeah, we typically need to stay around 10% water loss is a typical number that a lot of authorities use. If you start getting above that high, if your water loss is reaching 10%, then they'll start asking you questions. And I had that. I think I had an 11% or 12%. So we went and calibrated all of our flow meters, and we did find a leak, and we do leak detection, and yeah. So.
Do the homeowners have smart meters, or are they?
There's a smart meter grant that the town's trying to procure right now, and so that's Christine, our civil engineers, working on that project, trying to get some smart meters in place. Yeah, I think that'll help too.
Oh, they're amazing.
Yeah.
Highly recommend. Dropped our accountability down to up to we were 98% accountable when we got done installing them. So.
Yeah, and it's like, oh my gosh.
Steal a mouse. And
Well, thanks everybody.
Well, thank you. Thank you very much for coming.
thanks, Jim.
Yep, thank you very much.
And you all are welcome to email me questions for Jim if you think of more later. As are you in the audience. Those were great questions. Okay, so.
This will be I'm trying to think of the 2012 plan doesn't really have a lot of discussion around this in it, does it?
There's a utilities chapter that talks about water, but now we have, like, part of the reason why we wanted Jim to come tonight is that our grant that we received from DOLA for the comprehensive plan update, one of the requirements is to include water as either a chapter or weave it throughout the plan. It needs to talk about conservation. It needs to talk about, oh gosh, what did I write in the staff memo for this evening? I listed it straight from the grant application. Like it has to have like 3 different types of water topics within the plan. And rather than creating a chapter for itself, we're including water as a topic in each of the chapters as it relates to whatever that chapter is. So for like sustainability, it'll talk about the median, like reducing, irrigation and things like that. For the resiliency chapter, it'll talk about that looped system with Louisville or whatever that's called, the extra in case of emergency that we have with Louisville. It'll talk about the upgrades that they're doing right now so that we have higher flows, so that in a fire, we can fight it and not have no flow. In the housing section, it'll talk about, reducing water and water efficiency, products in homes and things like that. Zero escaping yards. I'm trying to think. Transportation, we'll talk about infrastructure. And then the utilities and like town section will also talk about like capacity and the things that he is talking about for like wanting the additional storage reservoir for is it reuse water? The recycled water, reuse recycled water. Water is not my area of expertise, so I apologize. Okay, so are we good to go on? I have some updates on the comprehensive plan, and I hope to hear from all of you. We have had, these are the stakeholder groups that we've been talking about meeting with individually as special groups. For economic development, since we didn't receive businesses information on our original survey that went out to everyone, we decided that we wanted to hear from our businesses. So staff this week, last week, next week, and for the next couple of weeks, we are physically visiting all of the businesses in Superior. We're small enough, but it's an undertaking. And we have questions that we're asking them and handouts that we're giving them if they're not available, to get information from businesses as to like how successful are they in the town, what needs do they see, what things could help them. And we're asking them about transportation, we're asking them about employment, we're asking them about how their traffic for their businesses, how they feel about their landlords, if they have landlords, kind of a plethora of, I think there's like 10 questions that we have that we're going through with them. And then we have some follow-up, like if they want to be contacted by the economic development manager, or if they, are interested in sustainability items, we have a handout for them for things that they might be able to do from a sustainability perspective. And then for the opportunity areas, our Cushing Terrell is reaching out to the owners of those properties that are undeveloped in town rather than having anyone from the town present during those conversations, they're meeting with them individually to ask pointed questions, to hopefully gather information from property owners as to how they feel about how their properties could or should develop, who's approached them, what types of projects have come along, how is it working with the town when they have people come approach them. So they're kind of, the hope was that they would feel more comfortable talking to Cushing Terrell on a one-on-one basis rather than a public forum or with anyone from the town or staff present to get a better or true understanding from them of, you know, the pros and cons and the trust and the, I don't know, all of the things that they're asking. I know they've talked to a handful and they still have, you know, 3 or 4 that they're reaching out to. So I don't know the status on any of those conversations as of yet, but they are working on them. And then this is the hazard mitigation resilience. So Mile High Flood District was not present, and neither was BVSD, but we had Mountain View Fire, Boulder County Sheriff's Office, and Boulder Office of Disaster Management. There it is. He was there with Jim and our town disaster manager, resiliency manager, disaster. She has many hats. Allison James, if you don't know her, she does a lot for the town. And so we met with all of them for 2 hours yesterday in a working group where we asked them, you know, how we asked them about holes that they see, you know, what could we do to be more prepared for an emergency. Basically, like, the theme was what keeps you up at night, and is there anything that the town can do or plan for that might allow them to get one more restful hour of sleep. And then I don't know how to like talk about what they said. So I'm going to wait until we have something that we put together to talk about all the different ideas that came out of that meeting. They are very smart people and very involved in disaster and emergency preparedness and management. And they have lots of great ideas, but everything, like, you know, is a give and take. So, you know, if you want to make the wildland urban interface so that your house won't ever catch fire, then you could build like a 50-foot wall, you know, but then you don't have the open space and the views. So like, you know, like there's a lot of, you on your own individual basis, you make decisions for your family for how prepared you are in case of an emergency. But on a community scale, it's a lot different. And from their perspective, it's like, well, you know, we really need 100 yards or meters and around every development to be non-combustible completely. And that's not really feasible when you have open space, you know, 15 feet from your backyard with grass that's flammable. So there's like a lot, there's a lot of conversation around what makes sense and what they'd like to see, what would, you know, make it perfectly amazing, and what in reality maybe can or should be. So it was a fascinating discussion that I was like, they just have a completely different way of thinking about things than I do as a planner. And so it was great conversation. And then I met with ACES, and they've sent Alexis some list of folks who would either be good to put in a room and have a focus group on sustainability, or invite some of them to a speaker series next year when we start having those, to provide some subject matter expertise on sustainability items that we could see in the comprehensive plan. That was a lot. Oh, any questions there?
I have a question.
Go for it.
Should I go up?
Yes, please.
So it's kind of random, but it made me think when you said, like, what keeps you up at night? Why don't you do something about the airplanes that fly over Superior, like at 5 in the morning?
That was
of
actually
the-
part of our conversation as well. Yeah. So the airport is not in the town of Superior. It's in Jefferson County. And it was there. It's been there a long time. There's lots of debate over what is and isn't allowed at the airport, and I am not part of any of those conversations. But from a hazard mitigation and resiliency perspective, they were talking about, being in the path of airplanes and what that might mean for emergencies or debris or all kinds of different things. So I'm sure we'll see that in part of the write-up, as well as, in the comprehensive plan in that section. But I don't know enough about what's going on in the airport conversations that board members are having and that residents are concerned about. So I don't want to speak too much to that. But I appreciate that is definitely part of the conversation.
We had talked before about you maybe surveying the town staff for future needs. Has anything happened on that?
Not yet, but I have brought that to Cushing Terrell and to Lisa, the director. So I think we have to figure out what that might look like and where it's going to come at in here. Yes, so we're planning on doing that, but we haven't started that outreach yet.
Who do you talk to about the vacant spaces downtown? I mean, one of the issues in the comprehensive plan, I don't know whether it's might be what can we do about encouraging more businesses to locate there?
Yes, that is a huge part of, so when we're visiting businesses, the ones in downtown would really love it if more businesses came to downtown. Staff would really love it if more businesses came to downtown. Everyone would love it if more businesses came to downtown. So, this is a topic of conversation on a daily basis. I'm sure residents are talking about it, staff is talking about it. The more people you talk to that own businesses or want to, point them to downtown. But yeah, I don't have an answer for how, we're trying, and there's 3 parcels that are still for sale. And then there's all the spaces along Main Street that are for lease through Carmel. They do have to be built out. So I think that that's a part of the, it's, someone who's just trying to open a business for the first time, and the difficulty is not having the capital or the know-how to build out an entire space from scratch.
I was really wondering, do you talk to Carmel about that? Are they the people who are, actually, I just don't know. Is Carmel?
Yes, Carmel is the owner of the buildings, so the leases are through.
Marketing the spaces themselves?
No. So CBRE is marketing for them, and then they have an arm that's doing the leasing for the commercial sort of it, or side of leases. The businesses that have gone in have said from a leasing perspective, once the lease was in place and once they're open, Carmel has been great. We've heard that the build out is difficult. and that, understanding the lease putting the lease agreement together it's different than other places because it's in a downtown with so many residents around. So there's limitations on, noise and light, and things like that. But I don't think those are the limiting factors. I think really it's the build out of the spaces that's costly. And I can tell you that we would like to see it as much as you would. If you have ideas, then please pass them along.
Subsidize the rent for the first couple years.
So that has been proposed. Planners don't have control over any of these items. I know that there's conversations happening out there. I don't know what those look like, and I don't know, what they look like when, the town doesn't own those properties, and, I don't know what it would look like for the town to pay to go into a lease agreement with a private company for another business. I have no idea how that would, I don't know. I have zero knowledge of how that would work, but it has been brought up.
Yeah, I was previously sort of tangentially involved with Urban Land Institute, I did attend a conference where one of the big topics was where and to what degree should developers subsidize those retail spaces, because it's like planting seeds. You need a sort of critical mass of businesses, for them all to succeed.
Absolutely.
So the question on the table was, should this be part of the development budget? Is subsidizing businesses to, as like fertilizer, so everything else will grow.
What did they say? I mean,
Developers don't want to do it if they don't have to, but
right.
it's a mechanism.
So mechanism to do it. Okay. Yeah.
I mean, the other area obviously is the marketplace. I mean, at some point, I assume Cushing Tower will be talking to Brixmore.
Yeah.
I mean, I sent you a sort of wild plan for how to upgrade the marketplace. And since I sent it to you, I've decided I actually quite like it, or at least parts of it, which involve turning some of the parking lots into a park. Because, I mean, I walk over there quite a lot, and I've never, particularly the parking space between PetSmart and Central, which is east of 5th and west of Marshall. That's just an empty, I mean, that parking lot is never more than 10% full as far any time of year, as far as I can see. And I thought ACES had a good suggestion when they said we should reduce the area that rain runs off into the stormwater collection system.
So there is give and take to all of it, and those will be part of future discussions, because I know I've been saying that since we were doing the housing plan, is that we're going to have discussions about where and what to do. Where does new development go, infill development go, and what types of upgrades or updates to existing, what exists today are needed in order to make us successful for the future. I did really like the ACE's comment about impervious surfaces. That was something different that wasn't one of the many things that are brought up regularly. So I took note of that. It's in my write-up for them, because I thought that was a really I wrote down everything that we talked about. I have a whole list, but that was one of my kind of ahas from that meeting as well, that I was like, that's a new one that I hadn't previously thought about at the same way that they talked about it.
Well, the place with the biggest area of parking lot is the marketplace. So actually, that would be an obvious place to look at if you wanted to try and accomplish something along those lines.
Yes, it is. It's a very big impervious surface. I'm going to move on to this. Some of you have gone to to some of our committee meetings, have seen this, but this is an in-progress kind of visual that needs to be digested by folks, reflecting vacant parcels in the town by size, by acreage, and then comparing them to existing developments. And we've tried to pull out existing developments that are both residential and commercial, reflect the size of those developments so that you can kind of see what is possible on all of the undeveloped pieces of land throughout the town. So there's 81 acres of undeveloped vacant land. That also includes annexable properties along 76th Avenue. They're west of Costco, north of Sagamore. Let's see if I can, these right here. But there's a vacant piece of land in the marketplace here. There's the Element site here. There's Discovery Office Park. There's these 4 parcels are undeveloped. The Zaharias property off of, what is that, 80, what is that, 86th?
88.
88th. Couldn't, like, had a brain fart for a second. Then there's the Resolute property here and Town 15. And so we were trying to, make something that you could kind of understand the size and scale of. So like downtown is 21 acres and Zaharias is 23 acres. The Colton Crossing, where the community center is and Starbucks is 1 acre. And this parcel in the marketplace is 1 acre. So it's really just kind of a way to show that how much land is undeveloped. It's scattered throughout the town. It's of varying sizes and shapes and locations, and then trying to point to areas in town that are developed to help you understand what may or may not be possible on that size of a vacant piece of land. It's really not meant for anything other than visual understanding, because sometimes when you're out at a vacant piece of land, it either looks huge or it looks super tiny and you think there's nothing could possibly go here, or this is like an endless piece of land and could be anything. So it's really just to try and help you understand what could be.
I think this is a really good graphic, actually. And thank you for putting it together. It must have been a fairly challenging exercise.
It's been fun. Alex in the planning department put it together. He spent lots and lots of time, and we've all reviewed it lots and lots of times with lots and lots of comments. So, and it's still a work in progress, and there's a lot of information. So
the only thing that I would think probably one thing that I would think of adding to it is Alex made a comment that in fact in the town of Superior, 32% of Superior is actually open space, which was a surprisingly high number. I mean, it's not exactly, in the same way you say 2.3% of Superior is vacant land, I think you might consider adding a comment that says 32% of Superior is open space. Because I think most people would guess less if you...
yeah, you
if you just
recognize
asked
you're
them.
surrounded by open space, but actually within the town, Yes, we have a lot of open space within the town boundaries.
Is the vacant land public or private owned?
Vacant land is, with the exception of Town 15 on the corner of McCaslin and Colton Road, which is 15 acres. I know we're really good at naming things. Town 15 is owned by the town and is 15 acres. Everything else is privately owned. So
I think that'd be good to represent on there, so give a realistic expectation of the public what you have say over.
yes, absolutely. Those are both really good comments.
I have a question.
Go for it.
Go for it.
You just sell your vacant land to like companies for cheap, so it could help like promote the economy.
So the vacant properties are owned by others, and Town 15 is owned by the town. And I think the town, so the question was, why don't we sell property in order to allow for development? And interestingly, the town, so private property owners can choose to whom to sell their properties. And the development of those properties, that they're all zoned. If they're within the town, they have allowable zoning. And then if they're the annexable properties have to be zoned. And the town board is responsible for saying the ultimate yes or no to development on the vacant properties. So that's part of why when we're talking to these property owners for the comprehensive plan, we're trying to understand who's approaching them to purchase the properties, what would they like to see happen to their properties, and then how does that relate to what the town needs or what the town wants or what's desirable to residents, what's economically feasible from the town's perspective versus the developer's perspective. So it becomes very complicated. Town 15 is owned by the town, and so whatever does or does not end up going there will be up to the town. But everything else has many players. Any other comments on this?
It's a very useful graphic.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
So I just add how much open space there is in the town to
Yeah.
it as a line,
I like
as a
that's a great
suggestion.
comment.
Are we planning to annex that?
It's in the, it's in the 3 Mile plan as annexable properties. The town does plan to annex that. It's part of, in the comprehensive plan from 2012, they were considered as annexable and desirable to bring into the town at some point in time. So they've been on our list of places that will likely be annexed at some point in time, for quite some time.
There's a couple of county-owned bits of land, one at the end of Coal Creek and one in 3rd Avenue, off 3rd Avenue. I often wonder why they stay.
That's a great question. I don't have an answer for. I know exactly which parcels you're talking about, and I don't have an answer for that at all. But they're owned by Boulder County. And I don't know if or when or why they're not part of the town.
I mean, they're surrounded by the town, so it would seem reasonable to make them part of the town, but it doesn't seem.
Yeah, I should get a better answer for you on those ones. I'll look and see where, I know exactly which parcels you're talking about, so I'll come back and get a better answer as to why they're still not part of the town
There
and
may
why.
be a good reason, but it would be worth knowing what it is.
Yeah, absolutely. You're right. All right, so town committee meetings, we've had 5, and you all have attended, at least 2 members have attended all 5 of these, I think now. And I just wanted to get your thoughts on how they've gone and how you feel the information that gets shared by just tell me your thoughts.
Go ahead.
So I attended the Advisory Committee for Environmental Sustainability, and I thought they had a number of very relevant comments or suggestions, because typically or often sustainability and land use or land development are linked. So they had some good ideas that could be incorporated into the comprehensive plan.
Yes, very much so. I agree.
Did you go to any of these? No, Amanda, did you go to any of them?
No.
Okay, fair enough.
I went
You
to
went to
2.
them too, yeah.
So I went to the Youth Leadership Council, and I'm really anxious to see the comments that the kids had, because I thought the activities were run really well. First, there was a list of questions, just 3 questions for everybody to answer, and that's going to get compiled. So we don't really know what they said yet, but they were very busy. And then there were maps set out in different parts of the maps, big maps like this one. And the kids were writing on the maps and putting notes and, things they wanted to see, or I heard them talk about traffic problems. When we get serious about talking about the crossing at the intersection of Rock Creek Parkway and Coal Creek, I know there's talk of either a roundabout or a traffic light. I think it's really important to get some high school students, 16 and 17-year-olds who are driving, and get their input, because they had specific comments about, when people approach this intersection, they're, every day we almost see somebody get rear-ended and stuff like that. So we should share that with the Transportation Department. And then I was also at the Historical Commission, and to be honest, I thought their comments were pretty tame. They talked about some plaques, they talked about some recognition. Lisa brought up some suggestions about archiving and some more systems-like kinds of things. But their asks were completely doable.
Yeah, the kids, they all wrote a lot on their comment sheets. I think did all of the kids? Every single one.
Every member had a sheet.
So we scanned those and we're sending those to Cushing Terrell and to the transportation folks, because they have some transportation related comments as well as ones for the comprehensive plan. And then their comments on the maps were really good as well. So they've all either been sent or going to be sent to our contractors to put into, some kind of something that you can visually understand and see from them. But they did have a lot of really good comments. They were fun. They were you could tell they were really thinking about it too. And there was a lot of traffic related comments, but also, parks and spaces for youth to go to hang out, and comments about the pools. Public spaces really was a big topic for them as well.
I have a comment.
Yeah.
We should put a rec center in Superior.
You would not be the first person to say that we should put a rec center in Superior. You have great ideas.
Right by the fire station.
Right by the, yeah, across the street from the fire station. Yeah. On Town 15.
I went to 3 of them. I mean, the Open Space Advisory Committee, ACES, and the Historical Commission. And I think I think they were all interesting. I'm glad that the Youth Committee was so active because most of those committees had older people on them. Don't want to be ageist, nothing against being old, but I think a different point of view would be good. I guess I should say I heard a lot of conflicting opinions about what should happen to Town 15, which will at some point need to be resolved.
Yeah, it's fascinating to see. I mean, I think it's great because our committee people are truly engaged in the community and in putting their, committee hats on to say what would be best from an open space perspective and from an environmental sustainability perspective and from a transportation safety perspective. All of those, kind of, they don't mesh and go together real prettily all of the time. So, that's why we have those committees, because it's important to have different opinions. The ACES committee is not anti-development, but they want everything to be uber sustainable. And the open space people would really like everything to be open space forever. And those are very, different opinions, but they also have a lot of overlap in some respects.
I can give a CAPS update just because I'm married to the
And we are going there.
person.
Lisa will be there
The
on
chairman.
Thursday.
But the thing would be that we're getting artwork. If you saw the one in the Silencio is in the median of Rock Creek Parkway, and then they just, I think this last week, added the one at Rogers Farm. It's these wheat that come up and they have glass.
They look
That
cool.
was just installed.
So somebody moved, there's one in Founders Park now that at least Lisa said was in front of
The
the
sports stable.
sports stable at one point.
Oh yeah, the wings. Yeah, that one got moved. They're going to put one in the median, like right in front of Wildflower Park.
Oh, okay.
So if you can see the concrete, like, or the hedges have been trimmed, and that's going to go in there. That one's Coyote Hawk. And then, which is really cool because as you drive by it, it changes from a coyote to a hawk, like how it's cut. And then there's going to be one that I call the surfboard that's going down by the amphitheater in downtown. And then you've hopefully seen the mural that's under the street by here. Just if you haven't, right here.
Well, everybody, I walk and bike under that quite frequently, but I must be looking at the street, the creek or something, because if you asked me to describe the mural, I wouldn't be able to. And everybody says it's lovely, so.
Yeah, you should check it out. It has a slight reference to the fire. One of the roses kind of is on flames, and then.
I will make a point of going and looking at it tomorrow.
Yeah. And then what else? I think that's, my husband's also on the memorial for the fire memorial. And I don't know if I'm supposed to say this, but they have a wish site, which is down the hill from the OR trailhead, but they don't know if that property is ours or not, or could be. Anyway. So that might be something for the town plan to see if we can
I didn't know
purchase that property or
I will ask.
use it, or
Lisa
I don't know.
Was Lisa
Anyway.
there?
I don't know.
don't
This
know.
is secondhand
I'll ask.
pillow talk.
I know they've been having,
I'm pretty sure I got that location correct also. So you
Oh,
might want to
nice.
double check that I have the right.
Street from OR.
Down the hill from the Or Road.
That runs into the old Rogers, that runs into the Wee Cottages development, doesn't it?
I don't know.
I mean,
But-
yes,
I did not have a PowerPoint going on while this happened, so I might have this, but
I think there's a strip of town-owned land there.
there is.
I think there's a strip of town-owned land there if you look at the map.
yeah.
So it might, maybe that's where they're proposing it.
They're.
Anyway, we might want to check with the Memorial Committee to see what the land they want and how
Okay.
that goes.
I will
with our-
ask that question. I don't know. If the town owns it already, then it makes it much easier.
Yes.
But we do have, we do have, like, the Parks Department works with Boulder County Open Space to put up, at least informational signage and memorialize some of the old mine, areas that are visible from the trail just outside of the town in Boulder County Open Space, like south and west of original town.
So maybe if Boulder County owns
Yeah,
it,
so I don't know,
maybe
depending
it
on
might
where
be.
they're looking, it may be Boulder County Open Space, but there are parcels that the town owns that are, in there, so it just depends on where they're looking.
Okay.
As a practical matter, my HOA is having its annual meeting tomorrow, so I can't go to the Parks and
I was gonna say,
Recreation
do
Committee.
we have anyone going to the
I'd
park
like to go
meeting
to the
tomorrow?
Parks and Rec Committee, yeah.
Or are they, I don't know if Park and Rec is online or not, or if it's just an in-person. It's at 7 o'clock.
I think,
I could probably go to that.
yeah, it's tomorrow evening, isn't it? That's a community, I'm not sure
Mm-hmm. It's
what
at the
time it is,
community
but it's
center
the
at 7
community-
o'clock tomorrow
7.
evening.
Oh,
Yeah. So it's after dinner.
Yeah, I can probably go to that.
Okay, and then, okay, sounds good. And then the CAPS committee is on Thursday, if anyone wants to attend that. Or we can just hear from Amanda through her husband.
Yes.
Or if you need me to give him any papers, I can definitely.
No, it's really just for you all to, I think it's actually been really useful for you all to hear our presentations and the varying presentations that we've given to each of the committees and hear their feedback, and hear the differences in the feedback that we receive at each of them too.
Well, I can tell you how you did later, how my husband thought you did.
Well, Lisa's going to do CAPS, so it's going to be fantastic. And Jeffrey's going to do Park, and that's going to be fantastic also.
And Renee, are you planning to present at the Transportation and Safety Committee? Because there wasn't a presentation
Yeah,
like on
I
our
missed
side.
that one. I'm not sure what the next update with the Transportation and Safety Committee is going to be. They did a Vision Zero with like transportation plan stuff on the 22nd.
How often
don't-
do they meet? Do you know?
That's a great question. I don't know.
Because it's a public meeting, isn't it? So
Mm-hmm.
presumably anybody can go to it who actually wants to.
Yes.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's.
Whoops, sorry.
I'm sorry about that.
Oh, that's all right.
Let me go grab paper towels.
What do we need here?
That's all right. Anne's got some towels coming. So
It didn't look like that much came out.
no, that's all right.
We'll blame it on Lonnie. Well, I don't know why your spot's sticky, Lonnie.
Don't worry, we won't tell him.
Actually sticky.
We won't tell him.
Yeah. Yeah.
There we go, yeah.
So the transportation meeting was actually quite interesting because they talked about their contribution to the comprehensive plan.
Right.
And they had their consultant there. So.
Right, the transportation plan consulting team was there. So it was less comprehensive plan and more transportation plan oriented. And all I did was ask them to at least speak to the fact that they will be consulting with Cushing Terrell as part of the comprehensive plan update, that they're doing a lot of this action work for the transportation plan, but the broader items will go into the comprehensive plan. I don't know, at what point we might follow up with that committee. Probably later on, once we have more information on where we're going with the
Who's the
transportation
staff
plan.
person who works with them?
Brannon?
It's Brannon, isn't it? Okay. Well, I have faith in Brannon.
Yes, he does. He's fantastic and thorough. That's all I have for this evening.
David?
Do you all have any updates or any questions or anything else?
No.
Amanda?
No.
Good. I think we're done. Thank you. We're adjourned. And thank you for coming and thank you for your questions. That's really very helpful.
Recording stopped.